Imagine a young orphan, nameless and unwanted, scraping through the alleys of a dying world. A child who learned too early that cruelty is law, that strength alone brings survival. That child would take his broken flesh and twist it into living steel, carving his way into power across the multiverse. This is the tale of Tezzeret, the artificer who betrayed his masters, who schemed beside Nicol Bolas, who opened the gates to Phyrexia, and whose hunger for perfection still threatens countless planes. Tezzeret's story begins on Esper, one of the shards of Alara, a land where Etherium defined life itself. Etherium, that gleaming magical alloy, was the measure of worth. The more of it fused into your body, the higher your station. Those who could not afford Etherium enhancements were weak, expendable, little more than shadows in the city's grand machinery. Tezzeret was born in Tide Hollow, a place of squalor, and his childhood was soaked in misery. His mother, a prostitute. His father, an abusive drunk. He wasn't even given a name. Other children mocked him until the day he stabbed a bully with a jagged shard. From that moment forward, they called him Tezzeret, a word meaning improvised weapon. That name would become the mask he wore for the rest of his life. At 7, tragedy struck when his mother died in a senseless accident. His father, without grief, forced him to clean her body from the street. It was in that moment that his father gave him a single lesson that would burn itself into his soul. The weak are nothing. The strong take what they want. And on Esper, the greatest strength came through mastery of magic. So Tezzeret turned to theft. At 9 years old, he began stealing shards of Etherium. He planned each theft carefully, even provoking beatings from his father to buy time to make his escape. That cruelty forged cunning. That desperation birthed ambition. And soon, the boy became obsessed with the idea of transforming his own flesh into something more, something that could not be broken. As Tezzeret grew, his obsession with artifice deepened. Esper's society revolved around artificers, those who could shape Etherium into wonders of clockwork and living enhancement. To Tezzeret, this was the only true path to power. He studied in the shadows, learning every scrap of knowledge he could steal or barter. Eventually, he built his own Etherium arm, a gleaming, dangerous limb that replaced the weakness of flesh with the cold precision of metal. This first great work marked his entry into the world of artificers. He was clever, ruthless, and above all, unwilling to bow to the limits others accepted. But his thirst for knowledge went beyond simple craftsmanship. He hungered for secrets. That hunger drew him to the Seekers of Karmot, a secretive order claiming to know the lost formula for Etherium itself. To most, the Seekers were a mystery. To Tezzeret, they were a ladder to climb. What he found, however, was disappointment. The Seekers' leaders knew very little. They peddled fragments of lies. When Tezzeret discovered their weakness, he did what he always did. He killed them. It was in those moments of violence that something within him awoke. His planeswalker spark ignited, tearing him away from Esper. In an instant, he was no longer bound to one shard. He was free to walk the multiverse. Tezzeret's first steps as a planeswalker were not of wonder, but of conquest. He seized control of the infinite Consortium, a shadowy cabal that spanned countless planes. Founded by Nicol Bolas, the Consortium traded in secrets, weapons, and influence. Under Tezzeret's leadership, it became a mercantile empire of control and corruption. For a decade, Tezzeret ruled with cold precision. He expanded his reach, manipulated guilds and leaders, and enforced his will through spies and assassins. His body more and more became fused with Etherium, flesh fading, metal taking its place. But power invites rivalry. Among them was a young telepath named Jace Bellerin. Their conflict was inevitable. When Jace confronted him, the battle was not fought in still, but in the minds. Jace shattered Tezzeret's thoughts, tearing his will apart and leaving him broken. His etherium arm was severed, his empire crumbled, and Tezzeret, master of the Consortium, was abandoned on Kamigawa, left for dead. But Tezzeret was not so easily destroyed. His ruin caught the eye of the one who had first founded the Consortium, Nicol Bolas. The Elder Dragon had use for such a man. Bolas restored Tezzeret's body and mind, reforging his etherium and binding him with a safeguard. Within Tezzeret's mind, Bolas embedded a whispering entity known as Dr. Jest, a cruel guardian to ensure loyalty. If Tezzeret strayed, Jest would torment him with endless pain. Under Bolas's command, Tezzeret sought the greatest of artificers, Crucius, the Mad Sphinx, said to hold the lost secrets of Etherium's creation. This quest drove him deep into Esper once more, where he encountered the Sphinx as Sharum, grand hegemon of her kind. Tezzeret healed her broken body, but his aid was never free. In return, Sharum gave him riddles and paths that might one day lead him to Crucius. For Tezzeret, each alliance was just another tool. He did not serve Bolas out of loyalty, he served him because Bolas had made him a prisoner within his own mind. Bolas's schemes required more than just spies. He needed a way to move his armies between planes, and for this, he turned back to Tezzeret. Tezzeret stole an ancient Planar portal and twisted it into something new, the Planar Bridge. It was a device of terrifying power, able to move not just planeswalkers, but entire legions across worlds. But the cost was high. The bridge could not be contained within stone or steel. It had to be grafted into living flesh. So Tezzeret bound it into himself. His body became the gateway. His veins burned with its power, and its energy began to warp him. Each use corroded him further, consuming him from within. Yet with it, he became indispensable. Through this bridge, he could bring horrors from one plane to the next, and in time, this is exactly what he accomplished. When Nicol Bolas prepared his grand assault on Ravnica, Tezzeret played a crucial role. With the Planar Bridge fused into his body, he stood at the heart of the Guild-packed chamber. From there, he opened the way. Through Tezzeret's portal came the Dread Horde, the eternal army of Amonkhet, reforged into undead monstrosities. Wave after wave spilled into Ravnica's streets. Without Tezzeret, Bolas's invasion would have been impossible. But Tezzeret was no fool. He knew Bolas's fate was uncertain, and when the tide turned against the dragon, Tezzeret slipped away. As planeswalkers and guilds united to shatter Bolas's plans, Tezzeret abandoned the battlefield, leaving chaos in his wake. The bridge within him smoldered, its energies leaking, its corruption spreading. But he survived, and survival was all he ever needed. After the War of the Spark, Tezzeret was hunted. Jace, Liliana, Raul Zarek, Vraska, all of them wanted vengeance or justice. To evade them, Tezzeret retreated back to Esper, licking his wounds. But the Planar Bridge was killing him, its power gnawed at his flesh. If he was to endure, he needed a new vessel, something indestructible, something eternal. His gaze turned to the one force in the multiverse that valued perfection just as much as he did, New Phyrexia. Tezzeret allied with the Phyrexians, offering them what only he could provide, passage between planes. He carried praetors across the multiverse, Jin-Gitaxias, Sheoldred, Urabrask. Each arrival scarred the world they entered, and each time Tezzeret's bridge burned hotter within him. But Tezzeret's loyalty was never to Phyrexia, it was to himself alone. He sought from them a dark steel body, a vessel strong enough to hold the bridge without destroying him. If Phyrexia's rise would buy him immortality, then he would serve, at least until he found a way to betray them as well. Even as he served Phyrexia, Tezzeret continued to weave schemes across the planes. At Bolas's command, he had stolen the Immortal Sun, a device that trapped planeswalkers. With it, Bolas nearly caged the entire multiverse. On Kamigawa, during the era of the Neon Dynasty, Tezzeret struck again. He razed villages, manipulated emperors, and delivered artifacts into Phyrexian hands. It was through his bridge that Tamiyo, the Moon Sage, was captured and compleated. His fingerprints lay on countless tragedies. Everywhere he walked, Tezzeret left ruin. But always, his hand was hidden, his true goals were obscured. Was he Bolas's servant, Phyrexia's pawn, or merely a survivor carving his own path through gods and empires? The truth was yet very simple. Tezzeret was there only to serve himself. What defines Tezzeret is not his artifice, nor even his bridge. It is simply his betrayal. He betrayed the Seekers of Karmat, the Consortium, his allies, and even his masters. He betrayed Bolas when the dragon fell. He betrayed Phyrexia wherever it suited him. For Tezzeret, loyalty is a lie. Only power endures. His etherium flesh is proof of this. A man who cut away weakness until nothing remained but sharpened steel. And yet, beneath the etherium, beneath the bridge, he is still that boy from Tide Hollow. The orphan who learned that weakness meant death, and who swore never to be weak again. Every scheme, every manipulation, every betrayal, all of it traces back to that single lesson his father taught him: the strong take what they want. Tezzeret's tale is not yet finished. Somewhere in the multiverse he still endures, scarred by the bridge, consumed by ambition, searching for a vessel that can grant him immortality. Whether as servant, manipulator, or master, his shadow continues to fall across the multiverse. He is the betrayer, the artificer, the master of the Planar bridge. He is Tezzeret. And if history has taught us anything, it is this: wherever Tezzeret walks, ruin is never far behind.